Greetings and salutations, Dota fans. Good morning, evening, or afternoon, no matter where you happen to be. We got a lot of good Dota on the way. 2 best of 3s, and to lead things off, we've got Fnatic taking on EG in this winner's bracket showdown here at the G-1 Champions League. Fnatic enters play today, a team that was on top of the world in the late months of winter, but which has been struggling a bit here in the early months of spring. One of the most consistently dominant teams on the planet from January through March. They now find themselves riding on the fine line of 500 this month, sporting a mediocre 7-8 record through April. For all of their struggles over the last 30 days, though, Fnatic is a team that is often a victim of their own success. Part of the reason they find themselves so streaky in both wins and losses is because they're always in the playoffs of every single event they enter, meaning they tend to dominate group and preliminary stages before running into stiff competition for long stretches of time, and they still almost always manage to win as much as they lose. For example, that 7-8 record they have through April, well, that includes postseason games in the raid called D2L, EMS1, and Star Series 4 all across the last 30 days. With that in mind, Fnatic finds themselves in a familiar position today, quietly and efficiently winning their way through and deep into this bracket, all with the chance to find themselves on LAN if they can keep their streak alive. To do that, though, they'll need to beat an EG squad that beat them in their last meeting just days ago in the We Play Dota 2 group stage. Now, EG is a team with one of the most prestigious names in esports, one of the most talented lineups in the world, and one of the biggest question marks in the West hanging over their head. Dating back to their strong second-place finish at DreamHack Winter, they've been up and down and side to side in their play and consistency. But now, in spring, the hibernating bear of North America has seemed to stir and awaken a bit, and people are beginning to take notice. The fact that they're here at all is a testament to their quest for redemption and to prove that they're still a top team. In round 1, they were beaten soundly by absolute legends who later, unfortunately, had to withdraw due to player obligations. From there, they ran into their North American rivals in Team Liquid and managed to prevail in a thrilling 3-game series that, in a lot of ways, was their announcement to the world that they're back and just as fearsome as ever. Now, they're going to end up facing another major challenge at Fnatic, but as mentioned, this is the Fnatic squad they bested 2-1 in their last meeting. The picks and the bans beginning to come out very, very quickly, but I'm really looking forward to this matchup. And at this point, I think everyone has kind of got their eye on Evil Geniuses, especially with the recent announcement of TI3, the fact that details are beginning to emerge. We're going to have teams invited both straight into the tournament as well as teams invited just to have to play through the qualifiers. EG is one of those teams who's on that fine line. How do you evaluate them? How much do you take into account their past success? The fact that they were able to do pretty well at the International too. So on and so forth. There's just so many questions surrounding this squad. And at this point, again, with all the details about the International coming out, they are going to be under the microscope, not just from viewers, but from staff members at Valve, so on and so forth, to determine just how much leeway they should be given that they were a bit shaky over the last couple of months. So they will be playing with a stand-in today in Sexy Bambo, so they won't be at full strength. This time it'll be Milk missing. Beat will be back in action. So let's take a look at the picks in the band, see how things have panned out. We see Fnatic taking out the Wisp and the Bad Rider, Magnus and Lifestealer taken out by EG, and EG coming out firing very quickly. 2 big damage dealers in Gyrocopter and Lone Druid, pairing that up with the stability, the team fight potential, as well as the all-around versatility of the Darkseer. But Fnatic does get their hands on Keeper of the Light and Nyx Assassin. Now, Keeper of the Light, and at this point, it's been a few days since I saw the statistics, so I can only quote what it was a couple of days ago. But in professional games over the last week, up until 2 days ago, give or take, Keeper of the Light was 12-2 in professional games when he was picked and wasn't banned. So Fnatic getting their hands on an extremely high-value hero, and one which players still have a hard time dealing with, and for good reason. I mean, Keeper of the Light gives you push, he gives you counter push. You can offensively tri-lane him if you want. He tends to be a bit more at home in the jungle in a defensive tri-lane, but more importantly, he gives you stability, the ability to take fights early, a massive amount of magic damage in early team fights, not to mention his ultimate, which is really where his bread and butter lies. The fact that he can use Blinding Light to shut down any sort of a carry early on if they're trying to do physical DPS, but more importantly, his ability to teleport people into him. In effect, it allows you to buy an Aegis. If you're having a very, very important team fight, you have a carry or a damage dealer that dies, they can buy back immediately. And so long as Keeper of the Light is where he should be, which is away from the beef of the action in the back, he'll be able to teleport that hero right back from the well, right back into the fight. And that alone, if you ask most professional players, and I've talked it over with dozens of them, from IX Mike to Fluff, all the way to Fear and so on and so forth. That's really what players dread the most about Keeper of the Light is just how much mobility he gives a team. And, you know, you see Wisp banned all the time, and that's what Wisp is known for, obviously, relocate, his ability to bounce heroes around the map and confound things that way. Keeper of the Light gives you that same sort of presence, just in a bit of a less direct way. Storm Spirit rounding out the first three here for Fnatic. Another really solid pickup. Whenever you see this, though, the Nyx Assassin and the Storm Spirit both in particular, that tells me Fnatic is not going to be looking particularly to take this game super late. They certainly can, but when you see a Gyro and a Lone Druid on the other side, that's an appropriate response. A Gyro and Druid doesn't get a whole lot better than them in terms of pure late game carry potential. A Gyrocopter who has the opportunity to spend the game farming up the items that he's going to want. You know, we always joke about the Rapier on the Gyro, which actually makes a ton of sense so long as he has a few prerequisite items like a BKB, like a Satanic, so on and so forth. But even if it doesn't quite get that out of control, just allowing him to farm up to an MKB, maybe one other damage item is in there as well, and he begins to 2, 3, 4 shot supports, even in the late stages of the game, just with Flak Cannon, which means he can quite literally focus fire creeps and be dealing damage and killing people 1,000 range away. And that's to say nothing of the push potential of the Lone Druid, his ability to take over a late game in a one-on-one sort of a situation. So Fnatic not wanting the game to get to that stage of things. And, you know, when I look at EG, they obviously can support the Gyro if they really, really want to. Where they're going to put that Druid is going to be the interesting thing to me. We haven't seen any particularly high-tier supports come out. I mean, technically, Darkseer falls into that role, I suppose. But what you tend to see with Darkseer is him to either do what he can against, or in an off lane situation, I should say. And, you know, or you can dip into the jungle, very, very fast jungler, effective at getting up items like a mech that you want as early as you can on your team. When you see the Lone Druid, though, you usually want to get that Lone Druid a solo lane. Most rarely, he winds up in mid. The most common thing that you see done with the Lone Druid pick is you want to try to get him into a solo safe lane farming situation. You can accomplish that by offensively tri-laning, obviously. But with the Darkseer being what the Darkseer is, that tends to indicate that maybe they're going to look to offlane and maybe they might do something unorthodox like run in mid. We'll have to wait and see. I mean, it's just not super clear. Gyrocopter, another hero that can do quite well in mid just because of his ability to harass heroes out with Flak Cannon. It's actually really chancy to dive a Gyrocopter as well, or to try and gank him because of the power of Rocket Barrage. And even if you get him, the ability for a teammate to teleport in after a lot of damage is done with Flak Cannon and Rocket Barrage just makes it really, really chancy to get away with a clean kill. So we'll see how they want to end up doing this. Looking at the bans that are coming out so far, we see Fnatic taking out the Chen. Makes a ton of sense. They don't want EG to be strong in the mid game and in the later phases of the early game, I should say, and Chen certainly gives you that, so long as he's able to get up his items. They're going to go ahead and take out the Bane as well, and that's a hero that works effectively in an offensive tri-lane, so wanting to try and keep that in mind. When you look at EG, they're just wanting to take away more global presence. They don't want to have the Nature's Prophet bouncing around the map. They don't want to have to deal with him, combined with Keeper of the Light, just guaranteeing that they're always out of position. That's how it really feels whenever you're up against a team that has a Wisp, that has a Prophet, that has a Keeper of the Light. These global presence heroes, they have the ability to just make you feel like you're never where you need to be, because if you give them any kind of an opening, an effective team is going to be able to capitalize on those openings and get the job done. Taking out the Alchemist as well, just a good carry that has a lot of versatility, very tough to deal with in lane, and that might indicate, as suspected, that they might be thinking about an offensive tri-lane. They're going to go ahead and take out the Bounty as well, and I think that jives with the idea that Fnatic, with the Storm Spirit pickup, with the Nyx Assassin, I mean, when you look at the three they have, these are heroes that certainly can scale well into the late game, but for the most part, they're going to be in their wheelhouse in the mid game, and the Evil Genius is not wanting that to be capitalized on in an even bigger way when you begin to talk about the track gold the Bounty Hunter's going to give you if and when they're able to get their kills. And it's so difficult to try and cope with a lineup like Fnatic's put together here. The reach of Storm Spirit is just gigantic. I mean, that's no big surprise at all, but especially when you consider you're going to have a Nyx Assassin under cover of Vendetta, able to move through the enemy jungle, move through sketchy parts of territory, spot out a target, and then let Storm long-range initiate from off the map with absolute knowledge of where the hero happens to be, and even initiating off of an opening impale and so on and so forth out of the Nyx Assassin. It's just so hard to cope with. So Fnatic looking to ban out their last hero now. But when I look at EG's lineup, I mean, again, they have three very strong heroes, and one thing I always say about the Lone Druid, and Gyrocopter's not really in this boat. Nyx, I would say the Lifestealer is, but Lone Druid's a hero who benefits a lot from having a safety valve hero on team, and Gyrocopter gives you that. And, you know, one reason for Gyro's rise in popularity is how much he can contribute at every stage of the game. He's a hero that, because of the strength of Call Down, especially when you combine it with the vacuum wall combination from the Darkseer, the strength of Call Down, the damage that comes off of Rocket Barrage and Flat Cannon, he's going to contribute even if he doesn't get up a lot of items, or even if he chooses to build survivability early, going something like Drums BKB before worrying about getting up any kind of damage at all. Then you do have the option, if you want, if you don't feel comfortable in the mid game, getting an item like a Shadow Blade, for example. Go Drum, Shadow Blade, Phase Drum, Shadow Blade, that kind of a build gives you the ability to slug a little harder with the enemy team if you expect them to be down your throat the entire time. So Lion's going to be the pickup now coming out from Evil Geniuses. Still don't really have a total grasp on what they're going to want to do here. Love the pickup of Rattletrap though. Clockwork picked up by the Fnatic. That gives them the ability to isolate the Druid, to isolate the Gyrocopter. The ability to close distance against those two heroes is of paramount importance. You know, whenever I have Puppy from Na'Vi on for the broadcast, the way he phrased it, and I think it's a beautiful way to look at it, the problem with Lone Druid isn't the Druid or even the Bear. It's getting past the Bear that becomes the problem. So long as the enemy team is in position, that Bear is always going to be up front, ready to deal damage to anyone trying to run past him. So getting past that Bear, very important. And when you look at the pure reach that they have now with Storm Spirit, with Clockwork, that gives you all the indication you could possibly want that they are going to be able to get past the Bear. Storm's reach, again, immaculate. Clockwork with his hook. They're going to be able to initiate these fights without having to run through the wall of damage that is Lone Druid's Bear, without having to go through the wall of damage that is Flat Cannon even. So EG rounding out their opening lineup with the TA. One would think that will be our mid. Looks like that could be a support Gyro. I mean, that's what one would think. They could still try to offensively trialing this if they really, really wanted to. But really, it's pretty wide open to them, actually. I mean, they could do something goofy, or they could just go ahead, run the defensive trialing, support the Gyro, run the Lion and the Lone Druid in bottom, with Darkseer occupying the woods and TA in mid. Totally sack that off lane and just say, you know what, Fnatic, we're not going to worry about it. And the big concern for Fnatic now, I'm sure they'll shore this up, is, yeah, they just didn't have any real late game reliable damage, any kind of super late game carry. And they're going to shore that up with the Anti-Mage. Now, the Anti-Mage works really well with this lineup for a number of reasons. He has mobility and reach of his own. It's not quite in the same book as Storm Spirit and Clockwork. Of course, those heroes just have an entirely different purpose in any match. But Anti-Mage also gives them a lot of split push. That's a hero who's going to be able to abuse the map a lot with Keeper of the Light. He'll be able to split push himself as far as he wants, take some chances, then blink into the woods, blink into an inaccessible spot, and Keeper of the Light can teleport him out. Or you can just flat out use a TP scroll either way. But you know, when I look at the lineups again, Fnatic has kind of given themselves a little bit more room to breathe with the Anti-Mage pick, but I still think the onus is going to be on them in a very big way to get things done early on in the game. This is not a game that they're going to particularly want to go super late if they have the chance to try and end it at 30 or 40 as opposed to 50 or 60. So, game one just about to get underway. This is our opening best of 3 of the day. We got 2 on the way. Alliance going to be taking on Na'Vi here in just about 4 hours, give or take, so make sure you stick around for that once we conclude this best of 3. EG, again, an interesting story here in the G1. Because of the path they took, their path actually came to an end against Alliance early on in the opening round. Or, excuse me, not against Alliance, but against Absolute Legends early on in the opening round. And Absolute Legends unfortunately had to withdraw due to prior player commitments, so on and so forth. They just really could not give the commitment that G1 wanted so far as playtime and schedule. So EG was given their slot in the next round, and they ran into Team Liquid, a team considered by many, including myself, to be one of the strongest on the planet, and they were able to beat them. So, and you know, again, this is an EG squad that has been really shaky up until the last couple of weeks, and since then, they've really gotten it together and have begun to hang some losses on some pretty impressive teams. So, let's go ahead and run through our lineups and see who's handling who. We're going to have Fear farming up, or actually not farming up. He's going to be playing support on that Gyrocopter. Jo will be farming up the Druid. TA going to be handled here in mid by Demon. Darkseer going to be played by the stand-in. Sexy Bambo standing in for Melk, and Beat is back in action. He's been out of commission for a while. Not sure what was going on with him, but happy to see him back and hope whatever the problem was has been resolved. He's going to be on our Lion, giving Trixie a little taste of damage here. Up near the room, we can see Bambo being zoned out. Sinviz will be picked up by the Keeper of the Light. And Bambo is actually going to make his way over to the lane. That'll give me time to take a look at Fnatic and their lineup. We're going to have Fly, who was kind enough to co-broadcast with me yesterday. Much thanks to him. He'll be handling Keeper of the Light. No Tail going to be playing our Nyx Assassin. No surprise to see Era farming the Anti-Mage. Clockwork going to be played by Trixie, and Storm Spirit will be handled in mid by Hani. So, we can see things should stay pretty calm for a while. I mean, Darkseer's going to have the advantage, at least in the off lane. In the off laners, just because he has the freedom to dip into the jungle if he really needs to. He has the ability to, looks like Hockey's messed up a bit for Demon. But just because, you know, and that's one of the reasons teams still so highly value Darkseer. I mean, we've seen the waxing and waning of so many heroes dating back over the last 12 months. But Darkseer is consistently highly valued, tends to always come out in the first pick or first ban status, at least if you're in the West. In China, a little bit different, but usually he's going to be picked up at some point or banned out at some point. The hero is just that solid in so many roles, and a big part of that is how reliable he is. You can run him mid, you can run him anywhere you choose to run him, really. And if things get hairy, he can just dip into the jungle, stack a hard camp or two, use Ion Shell, and catch up. So always a good pickup if you can afford to do so. And we can see a little bit of jungle harassment done here by Trixie, dropping a ward down the block this camp, going to prevent the double pull from Fear, so on and so forth. But for the most part, I mean, Trixie's doing him, you know, he doesn't have any experience yet, but he should be able to suck up a little bit. I mean, Beatiz is going to struggle, or Beatiz is going to be able to do some damage, as we can already see. But if he's crafty about it, and if he's able to do anything just to change the creep equilibrium of this lane, which is exactly what we saw with him dropping down this ward, and trying to make sure that it doesn't stack again or it doesn't spawn again. Just having them miss one stack and sending these creeps back in the lane will shove the creep equilibrium back under his tower and allow him to soak up a bit of experience. Now, here in mid, it's an interesting matchup between Hani and Demon. We can see Hani's actually getting the best of this right now. He's sitting at 10 to the 5 of TA in terms of CS. The Demon does have his bottle up, and yeah, Hani just picks his up as well. And TA is one of those heroes that you can do okay against her for a while, but just about always, no matter who you happen to be, unless the skill difference is just there or a player is playing particularly bad, no matter what hero you're on, generally TA, by the time she hits level 4, level 5, she's going to just be a pain in the ass to deal with, and that's what we're beginning to see. The spill damage from side blades already getting up there, more points going into refraction, so on and so forth. And we can see the Demon, or excuse me, Bambo is being zoned out. Okay, he is halfway to level 3, so he is getting some experience. Poor Clockwork still hasn't soaked up a single point. So the creep management here from EG, much, much better than here in top for Fnatic, as it is shoving a bit towards the Darkseer, but it doesn't hurt. The Darkseer does have a fairly reliable escape mechanism, at least in these early levels with his Surge. And this is going to be the question, is how dedicated is Fnatic to taking an early tier 1? They have the ability to do so if they really want. Ion Shell from Bambo helps in that regard. He is level 3, hasn't placed his point, I don't think. So we'll see where that third point's going to go, if he's just going to go and stick it in Ion Shell. And that's another really good reason why Darkseer is very popular. He can just keep a tower up, even against a tri-lane, a little bit longer than most heroes can because of the strength of Ion Shell. Yeah, and he did put his second point into there. And he's not super far away from getting a soul ring either. He's a little over halfway, so he's in good shape. Take a look at the CS board. We can see Anti-Mage and Lone Druid roughly in the same boat together. 23 for the Druid, 21 for the Anti-Mage. So free farming across the board. TA is catching up a smidgen. She's up to 14 in comparison to the 20 of Hani here in mid. But so far, we've got 3.5 minutes behind us. And not a whole lot of action to report, really. Now, one thing that's so cool about a gyrocopter, and especially when you see a gyro handled by Fear, and that's something worth mentioning in and of its own, is the fact that Jayo is actually going to be in the pure farming role this game on the Lone Druid. And this is something EG has been doing that I think is a reason for their recent resurgence. They're beginning to experiment a bit with who plays who and what they do. I mean, it was quote-unquote announced that Demon was going to be taking over the one role, but that, I mean, it just... I say this all the time. I mean, the numbering system, and we're going to have a smoke gank here, so I may have to interrupt my thought in a minute. The numbering system is a nice general way to try to understand farm priority and the way that a lot of teams approach their compositions, but it's never as clear-cut as 1 through 5. It's never like 1 is always the hard carry, 2 is always going to be your mid, 3 is always going to, you know, it doesn't work that way. And you'll often see farm priority shift a lot in the middle of a single game. And now we're going to have Hani. He's going to be hexed out. Fear is there. They've got him isolated well. Beautiful gank. And with Storm Spirit not being level 6, this is the perfect time. I mean, doing anything you can to take him off of the map and prevent him from getting to level 6, just so important. They got there just in time, too. He was only about 150 hit points, or excuse me, experience points away from hitting level 6. At that point, you just about can't gank him. I mean, unless you just have the most beautiful chain of initiation and a lot of high-value stuns and disables, it's just not going to happen. So, but being able to do that, giving Demon a little bit more room to breathe, he's a little ahead in terms of levels. That won't last forever. I mean, Hani will be level 6 soon. But that's the perfect timing to do it, just before he hits level 6, when maybe he's feeling a little bit too comfortable and he doesn't think you're going to even make a try at it, and really well executed coming out of EG. But yeah, back to EG. You know, Fear, traditionally, their most common farming hero. We're going to see Trixie actually engaged upon, and there's a root! The bear hit the perfect root at the perfect time, and that should be a kill on the board for the Druid, and it is. Very bad news for them, and we're actually going to see Keeper of the Light get a kill here in mid. TA at the same time. So action beginning to show itself all across the board at this moment. And we can see the Druid already getting himself 2 kills. And yeah, I mean, Druid having 2 kills, Keeper of the Light having 1 certainly doesn't hurt. But everything looking quite good so far for EG. But with Fear conceding that #1 position, that hard carry position, and you know, the team experimenting more with who does what, we're beginning to see a lot more flexibility in their lineups, and we're beginning to see they have a much more dynamic feel than they did a couple of months ago, which I think is really important. I mean, Demon often finds himself in mid on heroes like TA, like Magnus, that's all well and good. But seeing Fear on the Gyrocopter, and yes, he is playing a support now, but the cool thing about Gyro is he can switch gears very, very easily into a secondary farming role and just stick in the jungle, use Flat Cannon and Rocket Barrage to melt creep waves or creep spawns, be they stacked or not. And he can actually transition to a damage dealer and be able to be in position to deal damage late in the game. And that's another big reason why he has become so popular as a hero. He just has that much flexibility in terms of what the team might need and what he can do. And Fnatic's going to go ahead and smoke up now just in the shadow of their Tier 1 mid. EG, way up under the Tier 2, they do begin to back off. And we're going to see a haste ring picked up by Hani. Demon looks to be the target. And there's the initiation. They're going to grab him. Vortex followed up with Impale. A lot of damage done, and we'll see you in the well, Demon. That's going to bring the score to 3-2. And the power, the reach of Storm Spirit showing itself there even at these early levels. I mean, Storm is an ultra mana-dependent hero, and he does tend to burn through his mana pool, not just with Ball Lightning, but with his entire skill set. But if you have items like Bottle, so on and so forth, that'll still give you the ability to execute some pretty decent initiation, even when your mana pool is comparatively low to where you want it to be. Era is going to be getting himself a Battle Fury, and now we're going to have another death here in mid, as the Gyrocopter's picked off, and Fnatic all of a sudden ties the score. So these 3 heroes working extremely well in conjunction with each other, and again, this is just the power of Fly on the Keeper of the Light as well. I mean, it's obviously he's doing a lot of damage with Illuminate, but he's also able to support at least 2 heroes' mana pools with Chakra Magic. So he can continue to just roam around with 1 other person, 1 or 2 other people, and do a good job of applying pressure that doesn't really have an end. You know, it's reliable pressure that is not going to suffer because your mana pool gets slow that much. And we can see the Druid being left alone here. Now, this is where, you know, if you're in Fnatic's shoes, you have to feel a little bit pressed. I mean, they have the Anti-Mage, and that's well and good. And he's on a good pace for his Battle Fury. He's already got up the Broadsword. He's got up the Ring of Health. So could have his Perseverance now, and that would put him just about 1,300 gold away from having a Battle Fury, which means he could have it conceivably at 12, 13 minutes. But at the same time, you're going to have to... There's a timing window that EG is going to be able to hit here if they do things right. If the Druid continues to be left to his own devices and continues to farm, which we can see he does have the armlet on the way and should be done relatively soon. Depending on what he wants to do, usually armlet into Maelstrom is what you're going to see most teams do nowadays. But dealing with that when you have the power of a TA, the power of a Gyrocopter, the power of a Darkseer, and the single target burst that a Lion can give you on any high priority target, there's going to be a timing window right around 15 to 20 minutes that EG is going to be able to hit, where Anti-Mage might have his Battle Fury, but he'll be sitting on something like Battle Fury Treads or something like that, and not really be willing to come and fight. And they're going to be able to group and push and begin really applying pressure to towers. And that's going to be difficult for Fnatic's lineup to deal with. I mean, they have excellent anti-push in the Keeper. They certainly have the reach to engage out into situations like that. But when they're lacking any consistent damage, and that's really going to be the problem. They have the ability to burst anyone down immediately, and we've seen that now in mid a couple of times on Demon and on Fear. But, you know, Illuminate's great. The single target burst that you get out of a Nyx Assassin, it's fantastic. But... you know, even with Clockwork and Storm Spirit and his entire skill set, he is not a hero who, after he runs through his skill set, is going to be able or willing or desirous to stand and fight for too long. So that's going to be a difficult situation for them against a team, again, with the mid-game power of a Gyro, of a TA, and of a well-farmed bear. And Jo, again, just continuing to go to work. He's atop our net worth board. Anti-Mage and Storm Spirit are in good shape. Storm and TA right on top of each other, so that's basically a wash. But, you know, and the nice thing, though, that Fnatic does have to rely on is that if they can weather that storm, they are going to be okay, because the Anti-Mage is going to be able to find his farm. And even if we do see Fear transition to an off-carry role, he's not going to be able to do a super amount of damage to a well-farmed Anti-Mage. We got 6 kills on the board. We're just about 11 minutes into the game. Let's take a look at our gold graph, see where these teams stand. We're at 1,500 gold to the advantage of EG, a little less than 1,000 experience, so still very close, but the edge slightly going to EG, at least for the moment. And both teams content to just take their time. Nyx Assassin is going to be level 6 soon, and level 6, again, very, very important, especially when you're talking about the way that hero wants to work with heroes like a Keeper of the Light and his ability to bounce around, bounce other heroes around the map, the long-range reach of the Clockwork, as well as the Storm Spirit. His ability to just go under cover of Vendetta, move through the enemy jungle and look for a target, gives him the ability to look for ganks in a very low-risk kind of a way. And if you do end up getting picked off, it's going to be because EG invested in the detection, which is a win in and of itself. So the Bear's got his LA lights on, means the armlet is complete, and this is what we're going to see, yeah. And this is exactly what I expected, and what anyone really would expect. With the team that they have, this is a hard situation for Fnatic to try and cope with. The Illuminate's going to help a lot, but it's not going to be enough in and of itself. And we're going to see a TP to try and save this top tower. Bambo is there, but the push is still going to be here. Illuminate buying a little bit of time. But especially Demon, who can just eat that with a refraction charge. It's not a worry. And now EG can begin to methodically clear these towers. They honestly could fall back and even think about taking a Roche right now, because Anti-Mage is in no shape to fight. Absolutely no shape to fight at all. And Fear getting the surge from Bambo, able to dodge the Impale. Hani's there, helping out Era and No Tail, but it looks like they're just going to go ahead. Yep, they're going to all head top. Except for Demon, who's going to look to kill Clockwork. Trixie caught up in levels admirably. He's level 7 now. And let's see. Oh, there's Hani. Very low health. This could be problematic. And not that much mana. The Blink Dagger on Demon going to allow him to pursue. That's just about his entire mana pool except for the bottle. And Demon actually... Yeah, he got Phase and his Blink Dagger. We saw right there, by the way, that Hani does have a set of boots of travel, which is an interesting choice. But again, I think that jives with what I was talking about during the draft and the way they're going to want to try to play this lineup out. It's going to be very gank-oriented, very split-push-oriented, and Fly going to be engaged upon. Eats a lot of damage, but Demon unable to drop him soon enough. But, I mean, right now, the Anti-Mage just can't fight. Hani has his Battle Fury. He doesn't even have Tier 1 boots, let alone any kind of survivability item, even if it's just Tread switch to Strength. So EG playing this out as anticipated. I love the Bear with his LA lights, by the way. His shoes from 1991. But forced off, at least for the moment. Now, there is some decent spammability out of this squad to try and keep these creep waves back when they're in position. And this is something that Fnatic's not going to hate to do. I mean, if they can just say, okay, we're going to stick all of us under a tower, so long as Era's finding solo experience and solo farm, and putting that Battle Fury to use, they're going to be fairly okay with that. So it becomes a race. It becomes a game of measured risks for EG. How willing are you to commit to diving a tower at this stage of the game? How willing are you to maybe try to sneak a Roach? How willing are you to bank on your ability to just get in their face and punch them too hard to punch back? And that's really the team that they've drafted here. The Reach of Fnatic is not a team that you necessarily want to slow push at this stage of the game. If you allow them to get into position, you're not going to be able to outpush a Keeper of the Lights spam with Rocket Flare from Clockwork. You're just not going to be able to do so. So, the way to go about it is to try and hit them fast and hit them hard where they aren't really expecting it. Right now, they're just falling back to farm a bit. Bambo is going to have his mech up here in about 600 gold. Very important item for this kind of an approach out of EG. Having a mech up around 15, excellent for them. It's going to be a little later than that, but it is going to give them so much more sustain and the ability to fight even if they do catch a big Illuminate in the face. And we can see Hani building mostly for the mid game right now. Is actually invested into 2 null talismans. And when you see a Storm do something like that, it just tells you he's concerned about the mid game. It doesn't tell you that, you know, he's all in on the mid game or anything like that. But I mean, you've got Boots of Travel. You've got, and you know, that's going to allow him to hook up with the Anti-Mage to split push as well if he wants to, or to get into position to fight and use his reach in a much more effective way, knowing that his reach is effectively now the entirety of the map. And we're going to see No-Tail go ahead and go under Vendetta. Now, this is tricky for him when he wants to engage on Demon. You know, you don't want to spin Vendetta with Refraction potentially up. Yeah, and he's not even going to take a chance on it. But Arrow's going to have to get farmed quickly. He's going to have his treads done now. Now, I honestly wouldn't be surprised to see him maybe go with something like a mid-game item. To maybe, I mean, obviously Manta, if he can get it up quick enough, that's an item that's excellent in any stage of the game. But he could even do something along the lines of, like, this is one of those games where I saw it a few times in the Asia qualifier. Vanguard would not be that bad of a choice. It just wouldn't. It would give him some survivability, would allow him to come to fights earlier on against a Lone Druid, against a Gyrocopter. Don't know that that'll be the choice. Vlad's, of course, is always an option. I suspect we'll probably see something more typical, but it is something that he might decide to do. Looking at Demon's inventory, he's going to be following up his mobility with BKB. And on the side of Fear, looks like he might be getting himself a set of either Tranquil Boots or a set of drums. One of the two. We'll find out. But everything's, I mean, this is honestly more quiet than I would expect given the lineups. Given how much reach and the ability to gank that Fnatic has, you know, gank, you know, and that's kind of the watchword for their lineup in the mid game is let's gank, let's have long range initiation, let's just cause havoc and free the map up for the Anti-Mage. Whether it's in the jungle optimally, if he can split push a lane and maybe put some pressure on the tower, that's even better. And EG, on the other hand, has a team that just wants to fight. They just want to go fight right here and right now. We can see they're smoked up, looking to cause some trouble in this bottom lane. They may just end up hooking up with Jo. Fnatic is moving in this direction as well. And they're going to try to gank Jo. This could be bad. No-Tail, though, in the right place at the right time. Ends up popping that smoke with Vendetta. The Sentry Ward went down, but it just went down a little bit too late. That slight little bit of reaction gave him enough time to withdraw. And now there's the Illuminate to drop most of that creep wave. And No-Tail's going to go ahead and spin Mana Burn on Demon. And up. There's a good root. Can they follow it up? Look how much damage he's already eating from that bear. And that's a fortuitous root for him. I mean, you can't plan on that, but when it happens, you can certainly smile about it. Here in mid, we can see Bambo engaging on to Hani, or being engaged upon by Hani. But right there, we just saw in practice what I was talking about. So far as Fnatic without Anti-Mage ready to fight. We saw how much damage he did to Bambo. About 3/4 of his health, but after that, he had to run. He just had no way to continue to deal damage and hope to kill him. Just no way at all. So another tower drops in the favor of EG. And the plan's going to be for EG to continue to put this through its paces, to continue to use this lineup the way they are, and hopefully begin to smother the Anti-Mage. And we might have a gank attempt on Jo. We can see Storm is in range. Now he's going to go ahead and engage on the bear. 300 gold, hey, why not? They do get it. Good blink from Era. But if they can continue to clear this map of towers, that's the first tower, by the way, up here at top that is dropped for EG. If they can continue to clear this map of towers, Anti-Mage is not going to be able to find the fast farm that he wants if they play it outright. And Aegis is going to be much easier to take. If they take the tier 2 mid, if they take a fight here, basically, they'll have their choice of going tier 2 mid or going Roshan. And now Trixie going to be locked down immediately. And the Finger of Death followed up with the Burst of Demon. Just nothing he could possibly do. And that's going to hurt the creep wave but not kill it. With all of EG here, they may decide to go ahead and look for another fight, or they may just turn right and head to Roshan. 20 seconds on Clockwork. Yeah, they're going to take the tower first. And I like this choice a lot. Because it really, at this point, the Roshan, as cool as it would be, the bigger goal has to be taking map control away from Fnatic and smothering the Anti-Mage. Don't even give him an opening to do what Anti-Mage does, which is farm the entire shop. And that tower quickly dropping, blinding light bottom a little bit of time, but not nearly enough. And now that top tower going to be the next tower almost certainly. We're going to see them come down the bottom, actually, and there's the gank attempt on Jo. Mass TP's cooldown's going to be there. And let's see if they can follow it up at all. There he goes. There's No-Tail. And, yeah, don't think they're going to be able to do much about it. There's the homing missile. I just want to see it go the distance. Up, bonk. Still did no damage. But anyway, it is going to be Yasha on his way to a Manta style for the Anti-Mage, so typical cookie cutter stuff. Nothing wrong with that. The only reason I brought up the other items was just to put it on the radar that this is a situation where in the past I've seen heroes depart from the more standard Anti-Mage builds and try to do something a bit more tailored to their situation, but only one outer tier tower remaining. Anti-Mage is beginning to hit that point, though, where he's hitting hard, he's hitting fast, he's already doing 170 damage per auto attack, his movement speed is up, his attack speed is up, it's only going to get worse with Manta. So EG needs to find an opening to do something. Demon's about 300 gold away from completing his BKB, very important item for him. And yeah, Fear did go ahead and get himself a set of Tranquil Boots. And doesn't look like there's any plans for him to turn into a damage dealer right now. Now, one thing worth mentioning about the Lone Druid versus Anti-Mage matchup, to be perfectly honest, Lone Druid versus Anti-Mage in the late game, hold on, Jayo's going to be engaged upon, he's down to half health, no help's coming. And they're bouncing all around. Oh, Mana Void, not enough, and Jayo's going to turn around. Dude needs to be careful. Here comes Bambo, wants to re-engage. Hani, gonna be bashed by the bear, the freshly completed basher, making itself worthwhile immediately. That has to be infuriating. Has to be infuriating, but again, that demonstrates the point I've made all game. As good as this lineup is out of Fnatic, outside of the Anti-Mage, they just don't have that much sustained damage. And granted, the bear is quite fat. I mean, we can see he's actually ahead of Anti-Mage at this point in net worth. That probably won't be reality for much longer if he's able to farm the jungle and continue to find his farm with that Battle Fury. But for now, he is definitely a big bad bear. And we'll see what he wants to pick up next. He's picked up a Chainmail, possibly on the way to an Assault Cuirass. BKB is done on Demon. Looking at the side of Fnatic, Trixie's got a Buckler, still quite a ways away, though, from getting up a mech. Very important item for them equally. Actually, Fly has a headdress as well, so we'll see what they want to end up doing. But neither of them. You know, that's a shame. They just, you know, split their gold. EG is going to go ahead and take a shot at Roshan. It has been spotted, but really it just doesn't matter. With the double damage rune on Demon, the armor reduction that comes off of Meld, they're going to take this so fast. I mean, just so fast. And this build that we see out of Jayo is actually a variation I'm beginning to see a lot more in the West of what, throughout the entirety of the Asian G1 qualifier, the build on every Lone Druid was almost always the same. I think I saw Radiance build once. Other than that, it was Phase, Tranquils, Armlet, Maelstrom. Every single game. But this is becoming a bit more popular in the West, at least throughout the Western qualifier. Getting up the Armlet, but getting a Basher instead. We're 23 minutes into the game. We've got 9 kills on the board. The gold in favor of EG. The experience is actually in favor of Fnatic, which is a bit surprising. But again, that's just by virtue of what an Anti-Mage does. The fact that he is going to find his levels and his gold so absurdly quickly. But for right now, EG honestly has a shot to try and crack the tier 3. And that might be the plan here. And this is, again, exactly what I had predicted when the laning phase began. Or in the, well, probably not that early. I think I talked about it a little bit afterwards. But, I mean, it's just the simplest, most direct game plan you can imagine. So long as they're in Fnatic's face, Fnatic's going to struggle. Now, this is where things get chancy for them. If they don't, never mind. They're just going to rush up the steps and not be impeded at all. I was going to say the chancy part is if they stall out on the steps or stall out down here, they're going to have that happen to them. They'll eat a lot of damage from that. In the meantime, look at this. We got Split Push coming out from Fnatic. They're already on the tier 3. EG's going to have to make a decision soon. There's the vacuum that's going to bring Trixie out. Demon back up and running. But Fnatic able to do a nice bit of damage. That tier 3 is just about to drop, and finally the TP comes. This is the worst solution they could have had. They hung around just long enough to let that tower be knocked down to nothing, but didn't accomplish anything. And now Storm with an Orchid Malevolence complete. That's a very important item for him. With that Orchid complete, their fighting potential just grew immensely. Fear looks to be brought down here in mid, and he will be. Mita is re-engaged. Shows up his Blink Dagger. They're going to go for it on Era. Era able to Manta out, though. and blinks away. No Tail going to eat a bit of damage with the Mana Link on Demon. He's unable to pursue. Here comes Storm Spirit, and EG now back on the warpath. They still have that Aegis. And they're going to be able to catch up with Fly. Fly might be in trouble. There's a good impale to buy him some time. Let's see if it's enough. Meld actually misses because of the Ghost Scepter. And Fly bought himself some time with the Ghost Scepter. Not going to be enough at the end of things. Now, him being down is actually a pretty big deal as well. In the meantime, though, look at Era. Split pushing like a boss. Tier 1 bottom was the target. Fear's going to get there just in time. He is going to be building a BKB. So still no damage, building pure survivability. Just going to rely on the inherent strengths of the hero skill set. They've got 15 seconds to push this without having to eat Illuminates. That's going to be the plan. That has to be the plan. And Era's nowhere near there right now. Down go the Cogs. They're going to try to sneak around, and they will. Demolish on the Bear going to do tons of work. Mana burn on Demon. Demon doesn't even have enough mana to blink right now. We're going to see the Bear caught with the Vortex. And another TP back. Fnatic is defending this immaculately. I mean, just defending this immaculately. And this is all they have to do. They still have one outer tier tower remaining. They're actually in relatively good shape towers-wise. They're only behind a handful. Anti-Mage has 1,300 gold in the bank. We'll see what his next choice is going to be in terms of items. But he has overtaken the Lone Druid in terms of pure net worth now. Take a look at the kill board. We can see the Druid has had a good game. Jo playing quite well. 3-0-2. 3-2, a break-even situation for Demon, the playmaker that he is. 2-1 on the Nyx Assassin. 1-0, 1-0, 1-1 for Darkseer, Anti-Mage, and Keeper of the Light, respectively, then a grab bag after that. But Fnatic now beginning to sense that the momentum is beginning to shift, that they are beginning to feel a lot stronger, just getting up the items, weathering the storm as best they can. And again, that working on Hani is absurdly important. They're going to be able to bait somebody into this, I think. And, yep, there we go. Demon is under cover of an invis, so he's not going to be spotted. And, oh, beautiful impale. Got a couple. Now they're going to re-engage. Jo's in trouble. Good vacuum, though. Looking to turn this fight around. Heard the Mana Void. That's going to be enough to clean up the Druid. And now Bambo has to make a run for it. That's 2-0, the current trade. Can they clean him up fast enough? They can. The impale interrupts the TP. And Fnatic, slow and steady, wins the race. Just buying time for the Anti-Mage. Delaying EG enough, split pushing. And finally showing off that skill set as their heroes come into their own past 25 minutes. The gold taking a big dip, now cut in half. And looking to cross the 0 line sometime in the near future. That's a big win in experience, too, as we can see they're now 4,000 ahead. And more importantly, this man right here gets to keep on chopping wood. Era looking great right now. The Druid's actually behind Demon in terms of pure net worth at the moment. Hani is in position to go ahead and bring down this tower, perhaps. And I don't think they're going to use their glyph, and they won't. So another free tower goes their way. EG now only leads by 1 tower. Roshan should be up soon. That Aegis still in the inventory of Demon. Demon's got 2,600 gold in the bank. We'll see what item he wants to pick up next. Could go something like a Manta, could go flat out Desolator. Could even just go a pure damage item, like an MKB if he wants. But earlier I was talking about the matchup of a Lone Druid versus an Anti-Mage late. And of course, you know, who you have on your team and how you execute matters more than anything. But a lot of that can come down to luck. If you have a bear with a basher, and you're able to get a good root and a bash on Anti-Mage, you can clean him up. You know, you can't just beat him because you got lucky with that. The RNG treated you well. If you're able to get up an Abyssal Blade, which I think will be the choice of Jo, it gets even easier. We're going to see the bear knock back off the Cogs using Demolish on that tower. He is taking a lot of damage. Demon doing damage as well. Finally, they get to tier 3. Now they're laying into the racks. They're going to have to come fight. Very important fight for Fnatic. They need to keep this racks up. Here comes Storm, going to engage on Demon. Demon has no mana to get away. We're going to see the mech used to get everyone back into shape, but Demon's down low. We're going to see Call Down catch a couple, and Demon will have the Aegis cleaned up. At least he got the Aegis used, though. It was about to fade. And Era, in the meantime, is just doing work, cleaning them up from behind and forcing EG back. And Demon popping his BKB fresh off the Aegis respawn, able to get himself back to safety. They lost their tier 3 and they lost the racks, though. That's a factor. That's a problem. It does mean that EG is still going to feel pretty comfortable playing a map control game, knowing that mid lane's going to push all on its own. They can now look to just occupy and perhaps take over the jungle of Fnatic, and if they happen to see Anti-Mage too far away, they can try to push down the remaining tower and possibly push the top racks and hope they get themselves in a situation like we just saw. Anti-Mage just beginning to tank up, though. He is going to be going straight up for survivability. Has the Reaver on his way to a heart. Bambo. Looks like he's going to be getting a Scythe of Ice. He's picked up an Ultimate Orb. Demon. Demon with the Yasha. I don't mind that one little bit, given what he's up against. Yasha into a Manta. Gives him some more movement speed. Gives him some more maneuverability. Still has 2,100 gold in the bank. Can go ahead and buy his Ultimate Orb now if that's indeed the choice he wants. Keeper of the Light with his Ghost Scepter, Nyx Assassin. With his Blink. Love Blink Dagger on heroes like a Nyx. And like a Lion, which we saw B-Diz is already doing. Clockwork did finish the mech. And Storm Spirit now looking to get a BKB of his own. A Storm Spirit with a mech and a BKB is an unholy terror to deal with. You do not want to allow a Storm to get that farmed. And these heroes likely to be spotted out. Let's see. EG is slowly moving into position. They're thinking they want to fight. Just saw Hani move across the river. And now fighting for control of their own jungle. Era farming that jungle out while he's here. And we're going to see B-Diz initiate on the Hani. There's the blink in from Demon as well, and they're going to be able to clean him up. Beautifully done. Absolutely beautifully done. Demon getting as high a priority kill as there is in this game right now. That's 50 seconds. They don't have to worry about him. And what they can do is rush down mid if they want. Go ahead, look to take the range racks, then rotate down to bottom if they can get another kill. Rotate down to the racks in bottom, the tier 3 in bottom. Fly is up. Illuminate is going to be a pain in the ass to deal with. That actually does catch Fear a little bit ahead of himself there. But this Rax is dead for sure. Another 29 seconds. The Storm had buyback. He does have buyback if he wants to spend it. Doesn't look like he wants to right now. Roche should be back up momentarily. Yep, in about 90 seconds or so. And EG's not going to chance it. Not going to worry about it. Problem is, Era just continues to farm away. He's now up to almost 18,000 net worth. He has his Heart of Trask. And he's already working on other items as well. Now, what he wants to pick up after that's going to be fascinating, too. A Basher wouldn't be a bad idea to lock a hero like TA down, of course. Basher into Abyssal, that sort of thing. But the big problem is physical damage. A Butterfly would help him cope with that. And certainly allow him to tank up armor-wise to go with his already rather plentiful health pool. So they've got 2,200 health. He's level 18. Speaking of that, let's look at our hero levels. Yeah, that's about what you'd expect to see. Taking a very good Ancient stack here as well. Just hit level 19. He's 4 levels ahead of any hero on the board. After him, though, the problem for Fnatic is everyone else is low. I mean, you've got Storm that's right there with the Druid and the TA. But after that, it does fall off a bit.
Double damage.
We're 32 minutes into Game 1 of this best-of-3 series here in our winners bracket of the G1 Western Qualifier. Fnatic, smoked up, moving through the jungle once again. Going to look to find a target. EG beginning to prioritize the enemy's jungle. It's not your jungle, guys. Go back to your own jungle. But the longer this game goes, the better shape Fnatic's going to be to a point. The fact that they weathered the storm of EG and are now tied in towers, that may be changing sometime soon, though, as the tier 1 at top seems to be under threat. Yeah, they're going to trade their last tier 2 for Roche. Now, the way EG is going to react to this is going to be very important. If they decide to rush the racks, I mean, they don't see any reaction. They're going to see one hero at most. That's going to be Keeper of the Light. Are they just going to rush this? They have to know what's going on. There's no way they don't. And yeah, they're going to rush the racks. Keeper of the Light, going to use Illuminate. No time to be shy now. Down goes the Aegis. Anti-Mage picks it up. They got there a little bit late. I don't know they could take this fight. Bear's going to be caught with an Impale. And are they going to go for it? Yeah, they are. Here we go. They're going to try to blow Trixie up. Trixie going to be healed back up momentarily, but he should be cleaned up. And in the meantime, Era going to work on the team, but he got hexed by B-Diz. Now we're going to see Jo come with the Vortex. Beautiful vacuum wall. Caught Era in that too. Lone Druid ends up dropping in the Mana Void in the meantime. We see Hani bouncing around the map trying to find a target. And Demon going to end up dropping as well. However, the Aegis is popped. There's a hook after the buyback from Trixie. He's going to be able to isolate Fear. Fear's going to end up dropping. B-Diz now on the run. Will be pursued and cleaned up by Era and No Tail. Cost them a buyback, cost them an Aegis, but they got to win. 12-9. And EG loses 4. I'm a little surprised they hung around. That was not a fight I think they could have taken, but then again, they kind of had to try. Era's reaching that point where he's getting absurdly out of hand with his farm. And yeah, I mean, absurdly out of hand with his farm is a little bit of an understatement. He's at 20,000 compared to the 14,000 the next highest on the board, which is actually Templar Assassin. As good as it is to have a farm TA, not nearly as good as having a farm Lone Druid once you get past 30 minutes. And EG took their shot. They just came up wanting. Following that engagement, the goal graph for the first time, well, I mean, it had crossed a while ago, but now even deeper in favor of Fnatic. So we can see EG led most of this match. The experience way in their favor, and that's only going to get worse and worse and worse. Gyro is going to have his BKB in about 900 gold, but Era is going to have a Eagle Song in about 300 gold. If that is indeed his choice, we'll keep an eye on that. I want to see what his item choice is going to be. But we can already see Era's just not feeling that scared of anyone anymore. Level 20, Storm. And EG now beginning to fall into the trap that Fnatic was in just moments ago, being a little bit under level. GPM, he's more than 100 ahead of the next highest on the board, but that's what an anti-mage gives you. 3,600 gold in the bank. I'll tell you what's really impressive about this to me, is they did split push fairly well to free the map up to make EG back off of some of their pushes. But it isn't really what defined this game. It isn't as if Fnatic survived solely on the back of Era. They just did such an excellent job of slowing EG's progress down in the early game. EG was very methodical, and maybe some of the blame needs to be on their shoulders for that as well. You know, they had a lineup that needed to push, wanted to close this map off, asphyxiate the anti-mage, choke him out before he could allow his farm to reach this level. But they were delayed just long enough in many cases. They were distracted just enough by Fnatic's lineup and made just worrisome enough to not take towers as quickly as they perhaps could have. And it bought Era just enough time to get to where he is.
Dire's middle tower is under attack.
Force Staff picked up on the Nyx Assassin gives him even more mobility. Force Staff on Fly as well. The ability to get themselves away from that bear, away from TA. Very, very important. Allows them to just dance around while the anti-mage does damage, which is going to be a big part of the plan now. The initiation potential on Hani is absolutely through the roof. He's got a BKB and that Manta style. Has had those for quite some time. And Demon trying to farm as quick as he can, as much as he can. Unfortunately, just not going to be the force that an anti-mage is, even if he was all things equal in net worth, which he is definitely not. He's actually 6,000 behind. And we're reaching that point where every couple of minutes that goes by and Era's just allowed to farm, he's just going to get 1,000 gold ahead in net worth, like every few minutes, literally. Every 3 to 5 minutes, 1,000 gold. He's going to be ahead of everyone else on the map. And EG sensing this, looks like they may be looking to take a last stand. They're going to go ahead and smoke up after showing themselves here. A little bit of a lag spike there. Hopefully that was the server and not just me. Yeah, it looks like we're okay. But perhaps one of the last chances EG has to take a win that could give them a win. They need a high priority pick. And they're smoked up and they're likely to run across someone. Just a question of if they'll be spotted before they spot someone else. Trixie, now the closest target, being inadvertently pursued out. And they're going to go for it on anti-mage. There's the Hex. Now they want to follow it up. They can get Era here. It's a big deal. The cooldown's going to be there. He is locked down, but able to blink away just in time. He has next to no health. He's cogged in! Trixie cogged him in! Oh, Trixie! That guy gives him just enough time to follow him up. And now... Oh, wow, Trixie. We're going to have a re-engagement. The hook goes off and catches Bambo. Here comes Storm Spear. Storm Spear going to engage on the JO. JO's below half health. Will be bursted down. And EG, a shambles. As they end up losing JO, they end up losing the gem. Bambo going to be the next target. There's Impale. Well aimed by No Tail. Poet didn't know it as Bambo goes back to the well in a body bag. That's a double kill. And Era.
Under attack.
And Fnatic looking like they might be ready to get their first set of racks. The Gyro's up, the TA's up, but that's not going to be nearly enough personnel. JO have buyback? He does not. JO's down. He's down for 30. And now we're going to see the engagement on the Fear. The attempted engagement. Now Hani grabbing beat as he will end up dying, but Era's able to clean it up in exchange. Demon tanking through Era a bit with refraction. But losing yet another important support. Fear doing what damage he can, but the anti-mage just too fat right now. Do see a buyback from the Storm Spirit. Demon's just going to get blown up. And they're going to drop a ward in the meantime. So this is going to be the first set of racks down for EG. EG looking to re-engage. Nope, never mind. Here comes Trixie. Trixie hooked in. They're going to go ahead and grab everyone. Mech's going to go off. Mana Void did so much damage with the Illuminate, cleaning up 2 from downtown. And Demon trying to hang in as best he can. We got buybacks and plenty on both sides. Buyback from Demon, buyback from Bambo. But really, it just doesn't matter. Rax is going to drop. And yeah, we can see Era's already cleaned up the remaining tier 3. The rest of his team just continuing to fight and do so effectively. Bambo's gone. Demon, the last hope they have. But Era's not even participating in this. And Hani able to add a triple kill to his resume. And we're going to see Hani actually caught there. The illusions from the Darkseer wall doing some pretty decent damage at least. And Fly cleaned up by Demon just as things begin to break down. So they do lose one set of racks. They lost tier 3. And Hani dead so. So EG does manage to extend this game at least a little while. Losing one set of racks, given the enemy has a set of racks down, not the end of the world. They do still have a lone Druid. But at this point, the Druid is just so far behind. Anti-Mage is going to be doubling the Druid's net worth by 45 minutes, at least. I would be stunned if he wasn't. Even farming mega creeps, it's just not going to matter. He did decide to go for the butterfly. No reason to question that. Might look to trade off his treads for boots of travel now. If not, possibly look to get himself a basher plus an abyssal. Something along those lines. But right now, this game looking to be heavily in favor of Evil Geniuses. And Era continuing to just do work. Taking a look at the gold graph. 10,000 now. The advantage for Fnatic. Experience is in excess of 20,000. Look at the hero level. Anti-Mage is going to be capping out relatively soon. Demon's in range. He's at 20. But not even in range. More like he's barely in the ballpark. But with Gyro, Lion down near the bottom, level 11, level 13. It's not just Era that's getting big. You're beginning to see these supports get a little tougher to bring down. You have mobility items, blink daggers, force staves. The whole works. And EG now just looking for some way anyway to try and get back into this game. Era's by himself here in mid. And yeah, he's going to prompt at least one reaction. And Era will go ahead and blink away now. But this is Fnatic Dota. They don't overextend much. They don't like to take too many chances. They would much prefer to just extend the game, have it go late. Even later than perhaps it needs to, just so they can stay safe. Era's got 5,000 gold in the bank right now. Sitting on a trust fund. Now EG, the problem they're going to have is just having Era's mobility in and of itself with the Keeper of the Light makes it very hard for them to cross the river. Because the Anti-Mage can just sit in their jungle, can just play Cavalier as he wants. And yeah, there's actually not a Roshan timer up. Not sure why. But he can do what he wants near the river, across the river. And he can be back at home no matter what immediately because of Keeper of the Light. And EG doing what I think is the right thing to do. Look to get a high priority kill. If they could have killed the Anti-Mage off when they caught him in bottom, things could have been very, very different. And No Tail's been spotted. Oh, wow. Beat is missed the blink. Rosh is going to be back up, but Demon's just going to blink in and start going to town. In the meantime, here we go. Hani wants to fight. Era's there as well. They're going to go ahead and try to pursue Beat is out, and the root's there, but Hani able to ball lightning around it. Fights on both sides of the river. Era helping to clean one up. Trixie gets a kill in the meantime. We're going to see Bambo, Jo, and Fear being pursued now by Era. Good damage done with the Mana Void. That's enough to put another kill on the board. And Beat is missing the blink into the well. Certainly hurt. We see Demon taking damage while the rest pursue out Jo. Jo should end up being cleaned up by Era soon enough, and Demon going to go ahead and try to meld out, but yeah. There's already a sentry down. Jo's just so tanky. Wow, they missed him with the impale, and the root's going to lock down No Tail. Oh, Jo and the bear doing what he can to prevent the death of his master. In the meantime, though, Demon is down. This is going to be your second set of racks down for EG. Glyph will come out just to buy some time. But Only extending the, delaying the inevitable. 7,300 gold
Has fallen.
in the Bank of Era. Pretty sure there is a Bank of Era somewhere. That sounds too catchy. I can already hear the commercials in my head. Save for a new era. The Bank of Era. But, yeah, he's a little fat. Taking a look at his GPM. Oops, wrong button. That's what I want. Sitting at 680, just south of 700. Not too shabby. Given he had most of his towers taken down extremely early into this game.
Tower is under attack.
And EG just unable to really get the most out of their lineup when they had to have it. Again, it was marginal at best. A game of inches. They were able to clean the map of towers. But when it came to stalling on those tier 3s and stalling on the racks, Era had just gotten a bit too much work done, and they were unable to really shut him out of farm. And yeah, he's going to have an Abyssal like right now, basically. He's already got his Basher. We'll go watch him buy it, because I'm pretty sure that's what he's going to do. And there's your Abyssal Blade. So, other than swapping out the old treads, if that's the choice, not a whole lot for Era to spend gold on anymore. Obviously, he'll want to bank for buyback, and he'll be able to flash farm that gold in no time whatsoever. He will officially be doubling up the next highest on the board, probably in the next 2 or 3 minutes. Cheese picked up by Hani, by the way. Don't think I had to mention that Anti-Mage got the... excuse me, never mind. Anti-Mage did not get the Aegis. Who'd they stick it on? Oh, never mind. Hani had them both. I just saw the cheese, and for whatever reason, my brain only processed one. So Hani, having both of Roshan's goods, Era could basically buy a Roshan right now. Just buy a pet Roshan, stick it in the backyard. Use it to scare away the neighbors. Teach it to bark at night, because you really don't like that your neighbor steals your paper in the morning. But Fnatic now beginning to rattle their saber in middle lane. Looks like they're going to be looking to close this game out. EG right up against it. You hate to say it's hopeless, but there ain't a whole lot of hope. The gold 12,000 to the advantage of Fnatic. The experience is absurd. We're going to see the tier 2 drop to Era's relentless onslaught. And now just looking for an opening. And Era is just hitting so hard and so fast. Max level, hitting for 400 damage per auto attack. Regular. No. That's no buffs on him at all. The only buff worth mentioning is the fact that he has a mech up. And baddest farm to Anti-Mage you're ever going to see. Just keeping all the lanes pushing in. He's not even going to worry about that. Hani did pop a DD, but didn't do much with it. And he's going to be looking to find a way into the base, I would imagine. As Era now goes to work, cleaning up what might be the last of the waves, separating them from a Game 1 victory. EG's in position, but Fnatic continuing to play very, very patient Dota. It's the last set of racks remaining for EG right now. And they're just going to slow push this. Just going to wait for someone to have to move over and deal with the creep waves coming from top into bottom. We can see Era's actually going to go ahead and go bottom. Clean that creep wave up. And looks like his team's going to rotate with him.
Boom, there it goes.
Here we go. Side trap detonated, because hey, why not? And Fnatic slowly walking their way into position onto the high ground here. EG can do nothing but play back so far.
Players here.
And again, doesn't get a whole lot more methodical than Fnatic Dota. They tend to take their time and not take many risks at this stage of the game, especially when you have a hero like a Lone Druid that you have to contend with. And the Bears actually gonna be knocked on one side of the cogs. They had a chance to get in. That's gonna prompt an engagement from EG. Here we go. They're coming out. Era's not even there, so they should be able to clean this up. In the meantime, they do go 1 for 1. Hani pursuing out Beatiz. Beatiz will end up dying. And in the meantime, Fear with his own BKB pop just doesn't have that much damage at this stage of the game. In the meantime, the rest of them spread out. We see Era just doing work. Mambo will finally be isolated and cleaned up by Era. They do manage to get the Aegis, but it just doesn't matter. Demon brought down. And the last stand beginning. There goes the wall right on top of Era just to try and do some damage. Now he is taking a bit of damage. He got rooted in by the bear. He is going to go ahead and blink out. Jo showing off his Ghost Scepter. Don't know that it matters. Era's going to end up dropping finally. And EG is actually managing to extend this game so far. So Fnatic caught with their hand in the cookie jar a bit. And EG keeps one set of racks still standing here in mid. Era was just way separated from the rest of his team. And they did as well as they could, but once you saw the cheese and the Aegis go away on the Storm Spirit, once you saw his BKB charge used, EG able to clean it up, able to extend the game just a bit longer. The gold, though, and this is where you start running into problems. When you're this far behind, that your biggest win doesn't even really register on the goal graph. Yeah, like it literally just didn't even register. The experience a little bit, registered a little bit. But they are going for it here. And there's a hook. They're going to try to engage out and catch Jo. Jo caught hanging out by himself. He is silenced for now. Mech going to be used to get him back into fighting shape. The rest of EG going to work, though. Era eating a lot of damage with his armors reduced from Demon. Demon is hitting very hard. He will end up getting a return kill. Now Demon going toe-to-toe with Era. And Era with the mana void enough to clean him up. Fear has no mana. He's going to be hooked and re-engaged upon by Hani. So EG took a desperation run down mid. They knew they had to make something happen. Unfortunately, what they made happen was a 5-man wipe. Gyro has bought back just to try and stem the tide of mega creeps. And we can actually see Fear is gradually trying to transition to a damage dealer. He's picked up, well, I mean, not necessarily a damage dealer, but a hero who can do more damage. He has more survivability, picking up the Helm of the Dominator. Demon's inventory got a little fat with that Daedalus pickup, but I don't think it matters now. Buybacks, not available on anyone. So unless Beat has got a finger of death that can one-shot an entire team, don't know that they're going to have a chance. Last set of racks does drop. And, yep, we're actually going to see Storm dive to the well, because, hey, that's what you do. Fear pops his BKB. But Fnatic looking like they're going to walk away victors here. The Ancient now next on the list. And Fnatic coming in. They lost the EG the last time these two teams met. Today, though, they're going to be able to jump out to a 1-0 lead in this best of 3. And low action continues to rage. Still waiting on them to just kill the Ancient guys. Good vacuum, actually. Shame you didn't have that earlier in the game, Bambo. And Era just continuing to pad the stats a bit. Hopefully they'll get to work. There we go. And the GGs come out from Fear. Fnatic in a 52.5-minute game. Picking the anti-mage and weathering the storm that was EG's push potential in the early and mid game. Able to ride Era and his immaculate farm all the way to a Game 1 win. He finishes up the game with 767 GPM, 622 XP per minute on that anti-mage. Took him 52 minutes, 34 seconds, 19-37, the final kill score. I'm EC. You're here on One More Game TV2. Hope you guys are enjoying the show, having as much fun watching as I am broadcasting. Hope if this is your first time here, you'll hit follow. But for now, we still got a lot more Dota ahead. We've got Game 2 of this best of 3, and don't forget a second best of 3 heading your way at 8 a.m. Eastern Daylight Time. That'll be Alliance taking on Na'Vi. Game 2 of this best of 3 heading your way next. Stick with us. We'll be right back.